What's up, everybody? Welcome to Ask for Candy, where we talk about healing, self-care, love, sex, relationships, and what it takes to be amazing on the daily. Who I am is Candice Harper, lovecoach.com, honey. And my purpose with this podcast is to create healthy romantic relationships all around the world through self-love, soul connections, and sweetness. But before we get to that, we're here with our production partner, Celebrity Magazine, my Brian. Hi, Brian.
Hey, what's going on, girl?
You know the usual. There's nothing special going on in the world right now, right?
I don't think there. Oh, wait. You know,
Is there anything?
Election 2020.
Right? Is there's something happening? What's happening? Is there something happening right now?
People are exercising their citizenship.
Yes, 100%, and apparently in droves.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a record. It right now it is a record vote. It probably will surpass 2008 with
Obama.
Yeah, something like 100 and maybe up to 170,000 votes this year. Yeah, it's crazy. It's like mad.
I mean, y'all know I don't get too political on this show, and what I really try to do is be the anti, because I feel like we're constantly inundated. We're just inundated with this stuff all the time, and it's like I don't know, it's like sensory overload. But it's definitely an interesting time. And what I do want to say to anybody who's listening, that this is a safe space for care, self-care, and love. And
Yes.
we're not going to focus heavily on it. We know what's going on. I just want to acknowledge that it's a thing,
Right.
because I don't want to be tone deaf as if nothing's happening.
Right.
But this next hour with us together is going to be about self-love, soul connections, and sweetness.
Yeah, bring it.
Because I don't know about y'all, but I'm tired of thinking about elections.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired of thinking
I'm
about
still
outcomes,
asleep.
right? Although you did give me a little hope earlier when you were saying you were giving your positive prediction. So
Yes,
I'm just going to leave it at that. It's
yeah,
positive
we'll just leave it.
right? So yes, my Brian is also the editor-in-chief of Solivity Magazine, which you have to check out. You have to go to Solivity. It's solivitymagazine.com, right, Brian? Where
Yes,
people can
ma'am.
go and check it out. And we are live here every Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern. You can also watch us at solivitymagazine.com and on Solivity TV. Subscribe to Solivity Magazine on YouTube so you can be notified when we go live. And don't forget to subscribe to our audio broadcast as well, so you can listen in your car if you just want to hear my voice. And you can get that on Anchor, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you normally download your podcasts. And you can email us at askforcandypodcast@gmail.com. You can leave comments, ask questions, whatever. You can suggest topics, things that are on your mind, things that you're dealing with. I love to talk about them. That's part of how I got tonight's topic. Who's really the prize?
Ooh.
Right?
I saw that. Y'all
You
just don't
saw that?
understand. I see the topics and I was like, wow.
Did you feel like you were the prize when you and your wife were first
I
dating?
always like to think that I'm the prize.
Everybody likes to think they're the prize. But you also felt like Sasha was a prize as well, though.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. My queen.
Yes, honey. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I believe that to be true just based on the history and what you've told me.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a prize. So yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about tonight, because I feel like there's a dangerous way to look at that, and then there's a healthy way to look at that. And so we're going to suss that out and, figure out how we can make that work for us. Figuring out who's really the prize. But for those of you who've been here before, been listening before, you know that for almost 9 years, I've been a relationship coach and a workshop facilitator. You can go to mywellbeing.com if you want to work with me one-on-one. I love to coach relationships, and that's mainly what I do. Also, I'm a professional matchmaker with Luma, a luxury matchmaking service that brings high-end singles together to find their perfect love. And so that's another way that if, you're looking for love and you've got your shit together and you want somebody who's of a certain caliber, that's another way to work with me and, work with me directly, because it's a nice little boutique company. I love it. And all of this is just me living into my purpose, the purpose of loving myself unconditionally and inspiring others to do the same, using their romantic lives as a portal, an inspiration, a catalyst to our highest possible self. Which is what our love life is. We have this like story we've been told, this thing we've been conditioned into thinking that it's supposed to be this gift that we're given, whether it's that you're waiting for the white knight or the perfect woman, that person that's going to come and complete you and make you whole and give you everything that you need. Really, our love lives are there to grow us, to help us evolve into our highest possible self, to be a mirror to how we treat ourselves and our relationship with self, and to overflow with love onto others. So yeah, that's why I do what I do. Relationship coaching is my zone of genius. And the best part about it is that week to week, I get to grow and learn as I interact with hundreds of people around the most intimate parts of their lives. I get to take people on their journey from caterpillar to butterfly, unhappy with their love lives, or their partners to ecstatic. And I get to teach people how to get out of their own way and tap into love as a limitless resource, which it is. Don't you feel like love is limitless, Brian?
Yes.
I do too.
Absolutely.
I strongly believe that.
Like a cup that overflows and overflows. And
yeah, or like bottomless mimosas at brunch.
Oof. I like yours better.
The vessel just keeps filling back up. When we allow it, it's a bottomless vessel. It can just keep filling back up.
Now I want a mimosa.
Right. I hear that. But yeah, and it's a self-filling vessel. We think that it's, we got to get it from somebody else, that we got to be good enough, that we got to beg love from others and work for love and all of that stuff. And that is part of the reason why I want to do this topic tonight. Who's really the prize? So someone made a meme of a Steve Harvey quote. And I don't know, Brian, if I've mentioned Steve Harvey since we started working together. I have very mixed feelings about Steve Harvey.
Uh-oh.
Or at least the stuff that he pushes or that he promotes, because I think he means well. And I think that he's, loving in his message. He wants people to have happy relationships. And he's, definitely coming from a place of a level of wisdom. He's an older gentleman. He's been married a couple times. However, I think he teaches people sort of a manipulative way of getting into relationships. I don't think he's necessarily pushing real intimacy. I think he's teaching people how to play it as a game.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. I do feel the same way.
Yeah. And it's a little like pickup artist like that guy did that. The pickup artist, he would write all these tips and tricks and things like that.
Right. You got to outmaneuver the other person.
Yeah, outmaneuvering. And it's like, but are we really do we want it to be like a competitive thing, right? Like that's not what we're looking to do. Yeah. So I found this meme. Hold on a second. Now my mic's acting funny. So I found this meme that said, women, take the pressure off yourself when dating. He has to impress you, not the other way around. You are the prize.
Okay.
So yeah. And you know what? This is the thing about this. If we go to the historical biology of how it operates, it's that women, are feminine energy. They lean back and men chase and all of that stuff. I get where he's coming from and what that comes from. But I think in our culture, it fosters a certain narcissism in women. I think that a lot of times we take that wrong. That idea of walking around acting like we are the prize. And so then I was watching a YouTube video, and there was a guy who was one of those pro men advocates who's they're always on that bordering edge of anti-women.
He-Man Woman's Hater Club.
Yeah. So I was watching one of those videos, bordering on MGTOW kind of guy. And he was talking about, because statistically there are more men, there are more women than men who are single and eligible, that men are the prize.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I think that breeds the same kind of narcissism in men, because I think it takes away that opportunity for men to actually pursue in a healthy way. It takes away that opportunity for that, that healthy unfolding to happen.
Right.
And then I was talking to a friend who I was inviting to listen to last week's podcast. And last week's podcast was entitled, Should He Pay? And before listening to it, he mentioned that he'd always seen the topic of whether he should pay or not to be about equality, right? And he said, and I view myself as the prize, which I thought was very interesting, because, it's like I'm saying that we go Dutch treat, that's what equality is all about, but I'm the prize. So, I don't know, we go Dutch treat, or the woman has to pay, is what that sounded like to me. Yeah. So with all of that said, I started to think about this whole idea of thinking that we're the prize. How productive is it when it comes to actually having a healthy, fulfilling relationship?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So how helpful can it actually be when we're seeing it the way that we're seeing it? If I'm walking around feeling like I'm the prize, and other people have to sort of respond to me as if I'm the prize. And so tonight I wanted to talk about equality when it comes to dating and relationships, and the way that we sabotage intimacy by buying into being the prize.
Ooh.
Right?
Y'all buckle up, y'all.
Buckle up. I'm also going to talk about how any man or woman can truly be a prize that other people can recognize as such, but how to what it really means to be a prize. Right. And what that, it's not even a process, what it really means to be the prize. So I want to talk about first how thinking I'm the prize can sabotage intimacy, our
Okay.
intimacy with each other. So we can get really clear about that.
Okay. I'm with you.
All right, awesome. So, one for both women and men, I feel like that thinking I'm the prize, it's sort of the root of narcissistic behavior. So, yes, we are absolutely the prize. Like you should feel like you are a prize, right? Because I believe in that. I believe in that kind of self-love. I am valuable. I am worthy. I'm worthy of being loved and being treated well. But the only one of us that anyone should be concerned with knowing and believing it is ourselves. So as soon as we start to concern ourselves with other people seeing us as a prize, we kind of put ourselves in a position of needing for someone to validate our enoughness, right? So if I say I'm the prize, so that means that I don't have to do certain things, you have to do certain things for me. As soon as we enter into that conversation, it's like we're automatically putting ourselves in a place of validation. So if you're treating me a certain way, you're treating me like I'm the prize, then that's what makes it true. And that's not what makes it true. What makes it true is our own knowingness of it and our own alignment with it. Like if I know that I'm valuable, my behavior is going to be in alignment with being valuable and knowing I'm the prize. I'm not looking for you to have to do things in order for me to feel valuable. And if I already know I'm valuable, I'm full enough that I can focus on the things that you do that are valuable to me, right? Rather than looking for what you're not doing that doesn't back up my being valuable.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is where right, which is where we often get in trouble. So just to use my friend as an example, he was saying that when it comes to paying, he doesn't necessarily believe that as the man he should be paying the check, that's a given because he's the prize. So that we set ourselves up to be looking for the logistics and the minutia to back up what it is we say we think about ourselves, and it's like looking for something external to validate our self-belief. And so that's where narcissism comes in, because narcissism, even though people think that it's people they only love themselves, narcissists actually don't love themselves. They're busy trying to make everybody else love them, right? And they're busy
Mm-hmm.
trying to manipulate how everyone else feels about them. So it ends up being a borderline narcissism when we're like, okay, you have to show me that I'm the prize,
Mm. Oh,
right?
yeah.
Not only that, when we look for other people to behave in ways that show us that they think we're the prize, we get attached to what we're getting out of the relationship, right? That's
Right.
when we start like nitpicking and keeping score. So if I see you not doing certain things, you ain't treating me like I'm supposed to be treated. Right? I'm going to start nitpicking and keeping score and looking to see that you're doing what I think you should be doing.
Right.
And that's the kind of thing that clogs our ability to actually connect with each other. That's the kind of thing that has us, feeling disappointed and unsatisfied with each other. This expectation that you're supposed to show up in a way that shows how valuable I am.
Right.
We get attached to that when
Right.
we're looking for someone else to show us we're the prize.
And you're talking, just to ask the question, you're talking even additionally, like traditional gender roles, right? Like what's the meaning of what people think of themselves, like men? What do we think we're supposed to be doing in a relationship? Women are thinking the same thing, right?
Well, what do
Like
you mean? Like
so, like, oh well, if you're the man, you're
uh,
supposed to be doing this, right? Like you're
yeah,
supposed to be opening up the door. You're supposed to be paying for dinner. You're supposed to be,
yeah.
because at the end of the day, I'm the prize and I deserve for you to treat me this way. And then that validates that you understand that I'm the prize. And
Yes.
okay, all right, all right, all right.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm talking about that in the sense that when we're expecting those things
right.
and wanting those things and wanting that person to do those things and having a problem with a person because they don't do those things,
Right.
we got to look at, do we really think that we're a prize, or are we trying to get them to prove that we're a prize?
Uh-huh.
Right. And
Right.
there's nothing wrong with those things. Like, I think that a man who really believes he's a prize will do those things,
Right.
because when we believe we're a prize, we want to be loving and overflow
Right.
and
Right.
and be in our natural, maybe their natural chivalry, or a woman wants to be in her natural, nurturing, affectionate place, or, natural ability to be impressed and pleased and
Right.
show acknowledgement for that.
Right.
Like, I
That
don't
makes
think there's
sense.
anything wrong with enjoying those things. What happens is when we expect them
Right.
based on feeling that we deserve them,
Right.
that's where we get into trouble, right?
So it's seeing yourself and the other person through the filter of that mechanism of the validation of being a prize, right?
Yeah.
Like you're just saying. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Rather
I
than
mean, that's shoot. That's an important concept.
Right, rather than just seeing yourself through your own perception of yourself and then choosing to align with being a prize, right? So that's who I know I am. I know I'm valuable. I know I'm a prize, and those who see it are going to be the ones that will magnetize and gravitate towards me, and I can just enjoy that. I don't need to like have expectations of them, because they'll see it. And what do we do when we feel like someone's very valuable, right? We tend to be inspired to treat them like they're valuable. I don't have to force anybody to treat me like I'm valuable. I don't have to be mad because somebody doesn't, or they don't see it. Because if I'm mad about it, then I'm triggered thinking that, what I already think about myself might not be true. All I got to do is know. I just got to know I'm a prize, and you don't have to validate it.
Right. Right.
Right?
Right. Right. I am a loving, such and such, all those characteristics that you feel for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Woo. Like I said, y'all, buckle up.
And that leads into the next one, because when we are attached to what we're getting out of a relationship, it doesn't take long to be disappointed. Right? So if I come into the relationship with the framework of I'm the prize, and so I'm not going to do certain things and I'm going to expect certain things based on being the prize, it's not going to be long before that person disappoints you, because even if they see you as valuable on some level, especially in the beginning, there's going to be days where you don't feel so valuable to them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And if the expectation is that someone is always there, able to view you as a prize, treat you in a certain way, you're going to at some point be disappointed with that person.
Right. Right.
And I'm not saying that we have to avoid ever being disappointed, but this is how we set ourselves up for these relationships that, they burn hot for a while. And then in a few years, it's like, well, you're not filling me up like you used to. You're not validating what I haven't, decided about myself. You're not lifting me up and filling my tank and doing all the things that I need for you to do. This is the story we tell ourselves. And then that's why our relationship starts to break down.
So this has a lot to do too about, again, going back to even the first show in terms of becoming self-aware and working on those internal things so that you can see yourself through in almost like a divine where you see your open heart, you can see yourself from a place of pure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's what that's sort of the Trojan horse of everything, right?
Right. We're in Troy.
It always goes back to that. It always goes back to, what's on the inside is what's going on with my relationship with myself. But this idea that, there is a distinction between what is real self-love, what is unconditional self-love, and then what is narcissism. And I feel like, because the way we are culturally and in our society, there's just such a I don't know, there's like I don't know what the word is for it, but this belief that loving myself and taking care of myself is all about how I block off and manipulate everyone else in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have to see me a certain way, you have to show up a certain way. Otherwise, I'm putting up my boundaries, I'm cutting you off, I'm looking for red flags on you. I'm trying to decide if you're good enough. Like all of that is from a place of lack, and it's from a place of not having fulfilled the relationship with myself. Because if that's what I'm focusing on, then I'm not leaving the bandwidth to be in my own business, which is the business of being in a good relationship with myself. I don't need for you to be anything if I'm in a good relationship with myself.
Right.
But if you are in a good relationship with yourself and we attract each other, we can then, build something that's healthy. Doesn't mean it'll always be perfect. Doesn't mean we won't ever fall out of favor with each other. But it just means that as long as we don't have this expectation that the other person fill up something that we're not filling up, then we have a chance for some sustainability, because we exhaust each other with this idea that there's something or some way that you're supposed to be that is supposed to validate my relationship with myself, how I see myself. Right. And that's sort of at the root of all of it. It's at the root of almost all problems that couples have, and why dating it can be so rocky. And what I find is that I do a lot of feedback calls and debriefing calls with people that I match together and send on dates. And what is very often the case is that people come back feeling like that person didn't treat me like I wanted to be treated. That person wasn't good enough for this reason, that reason, or another reason. That person, has these issues, so they're not going to be able to be what I want them to be. When we're doing that to each other, it's like we cut off all possibility for what intimacy truly is, which is, I love myself so much that I'm okay with sharing myself with you, even those things that I wasn't always proud of, those things that, maybe society doesn't think are so great. And so many of us have things about us, whether it's, illnesses that we've been through, or, financial secrets, or dysfunctional family stuff, or whatever, things that we shame ourselves around. And so that's why it's so important to be in this conversation of self-love, unconditional self-love, and not allow it to be a narcissistic conversation, because narcissistic self-love is not edifying, and it's not unifying, and you will not have an intimate connection with anyone as long as you're trying to force people to be a certain way in your life.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of times I think we get stuck in, how do I force someone to be a certain way in my life? And then we get frustrated once we realize you can't, and then cut off all possibilities.
Right.
Like, I'm done with love. I give up on love, like I'm that's over. I'm not even looking at that part of my life, because I was unable to force anyone to do the validation and the filling up that I required.
So that's what they believe, or we believe love is at that point.
Well, I think societally and how we're conditioned, like we think that love is, I find this person and they're everything that I want them to be. And if they're not, I'll change those parts.
Ah,
Right?
the old, I love you, now change.
Yeah. Yeah. There was even a show called I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change. So, that's what this sort of speaks back to. And, the cautious way that we need to be around our language when it comes to this. So if I'm walking around like I'm God's gift in a narcissistic way, I'm going to be looking for someone to constantly be building that up and validating that for me, and, making it true, rather than an authentic, real relationship with myself that doesn't require anybody to follow any rules or anything like that. But magically enough, it does tend to attract people naturally wanting to they feel inspired to show up as if you are valuable. When we know we're valuable, we teach other people that we're valuable. And that doesn't mean that everybody's going to see us as valuable, but the people who don't become very clear. Right? They become very clear to us, and they take themselves away, because if they don't see that we're worth it, they're not going to stick around if we're in alignment with loving ourselves.
Or maybe they elevate too. Right?
Or maybe they elevate too. Especially if we have no attachment to them elevating too. It's really about that self relationship. Whether or not in a relationship, it's that self relationship that comes first. So, yeah.
Oof. I'm digging this topic, Candy.
Oh, good, honey. I'm
Yeah.
glad.
Yeah,
I'm
this is
glad.
yeah, I mean it's you know, like I know that some people out there might have heard some of similar concepts before, but the way you're framing it, it's like beautiful to kind of come back to. Like you said, it's the the Trojan horse of all things relationship, you know.
Yeah. And it's also just about, yeah, like I feel like there's nothing new under the sun. But what we
Right.
really have to
Right.
do is just always be cognizant of how we create with our words, our thoughts, and our beliefs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, usually what we're talking about each week has to do with, when I'm talking to people, screening people for dates and talking to them about how to match up and, what to be allowing of, what to accept, how to attract, all of that stuff. All of this falls under the fact that we have a lot of negative conditioning when it comes to love and relationships. We have a lot of conditioning that doesn't work, which is why we have such a high divorce rate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of that comes from the language that we use, the way that we frame things, the way that we try to fix and mend after we have been hurt rather than heal it. So it's like, oh, I was hurt, so now I'm never going to deal with anybody like that person again,
Right. Right.
which is exactly how we put the past into the future. So, this is really just about, let's recognize what it is we're saying and what we're believing when we take on these identities of like, I'm the prize. Like, that's an identity to take on. It's
Right.
an identity, just like if someone were to say, and I get this one a lot. I'm very introverted and I haven't dated a lot, so I have no experience, as if there's some sort of dating mastery that I'm supposed to have that everybody else knows about but me, right? Like there's some skillful way to do it that everybody else knows and I don't know because I've only had, maybe a one relationship, or I haven't dated very often. I get that one just as well,
Right. Right.
you know. But the idea is to be aware of these identities and realizing that we don't have to take them on. And if we do, we have to be really clear about what it is we're saying and believing. Being the prize doesn't mean you get to insist that everybody treat you like a princess. Or if you're a man, being the prize doesn't mean that you sit back and let a woman take care of you financially because you're the prize.
Oof.
That's toxic. Both of
Yeah.
them are toxic
Mm-hmm.
to relationship, to intimacy. They're not connective, right? Yeah.
I
So
don't
do you
know.
want to take a little commercial break? I want to
Yeah. Why don't we do
check my
that?
audio. Let's do that, because then I want to talk about who truly is the prize and how to actually be the prize. Yeah. All right, let's do it.
Ya perdí la cuenta, ya perdí la cuenta, ya perdí la cuenta de tropezar con la misma piedra. Ya perdí la cuenta, no sé cuántas veces más voy a caer.
So we're back. So who truly is the prize? Who is truly the prize? How to really be the prize? If you feel like you are the prize, I'm going to go through these possibilities for how you can sort of litmus test it. And the good news is that we are all the prize and everybody can be the prize. It's just a question of how you're framing it. Are you framing it in a way that's workable? Are you framing it in a way that's, standing in your way and not connective and leading you down the road of narcissism? So, number one, the prize is the one who knows their value without needing for it to be validated by someone else's behavior. Simply, right?
Bam. Drop the mic on
Yeah.
that one.
Like you're instantly the prize if you know that you're valuable without anyone else having to say it. And that includes not just your lovers, your parents, your friends, I'm not saying that we can't enjoy and acknowledge and love it when we get accolades. Everybody loves that, right? Everybody loves to be acknowledged and appreciated. There's nothing wrong with that. We're human beings.
Hmm.
But when you are truly the prize and you know you're the prize, you don't need it in order to know that, right? You don't need
Exactly.
to be validated. It's something that you yourself can reinforce for yourself. And naturally everyone around you will actually give you that appreciation, that acknowledgement, and that love, and you don't have to look for it. You don't have to manipulate it out of them. Who else is truly the prize? The one who is filled to overflowing,
Mm.
right? So anyone you're in relationship with, obviously we all have our good days and our bad days, but if for the most part, whether it's a friendship, a familial relationship, or a romantic relationship, if you are in relationship with a person who fills themselves up so that they can overflow, they don't compromise themselves in order to love other people, and the love that they give to other people is not martyrdom, and it doesn't require anything in return. Like, and you know those people, right? Can you think of people in your life, Brian, who just love you? And it might be familial, but
Yeah.
people who just love you, and they don't say, well, you got to give me something back, or
Yeah.
not that people always say that verbally,
Right.
but even with their actions.
Right. They're there. It's always like, oh, this is a good. They're always like in the present moment with
Yeah,
like there is no like, oh well, they're waiting, not like they're waiting for you to do something or anything like that. They're just right there in the moment. They're enjoying you as you in that moment of time.
yeah,
It's beautiful.
it's a beautiful thing. And I mean, for me, like all the close, like people who are in my closest circle are all people who, I can just overflow onto, and I feel their overflow onto me. And there's not that, because as soon as I start to feel that, I don't know about you, but personally, as soon as I start to feel that, where it's like you owe me something, or I owe you,
Mm-hmm.
like to me,
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't feel right. And I always feel that there needs to be clearing behind that if that starts to come up with someone,
Right.
that feeling that we owe each other in some way when we're in relationship. And I feel like in romantic relationships, people are often like, well, if they're not giving me what I want, or if they're not giving me back what I give them, or they're trying to leverage, like, I do so much for this person, and how much are they doing for you? Remember that Janet Jackson song, What Have You Done For Me Lately?
Blum, 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 blum.
Exactly. So, like, we in romantic relationships, we tend to get into this thing where it's like we're looking for them to be doing as much as we're doing, and then sometimes we speak different love languages, so sometimes they're not giving it to us the way we like to give it, or we like to have it, and we're giving them what we actually would enjoy, and feeling like we're burdened and overwhelmed because we're doing more in the relationship, or we love them more, and all of that stuff. Like, that's not either of us being the prize when we're in that conversation.
Right.
Right. And I'm not saying this like it's easy. When someone returns what we give them, there is a certain level of reassurance in that, like reassurance that you're giving it to the right person, or reassurance that this is the person you should be with. But it's just the looking for it is where we get into trouble, and the expectation of it, rather than I'm in this relationship to give, not to get. And what I get, I appreciate and acknowledge, but what I give because I want to give it. Two people in the relationship with that attitude, you'll never go wrong. They'll be together forever. Right? Then another one for who's truly the prize, the one who doesn't expect recognition but accepts, appreciates, and acknowledges it with the same and more. Right?
Yeah.
And I get that there is a certain biological dynamic when it comes to men, when it comes to pleasing and impressing. And obviously women as well. I don't want to like generalize the genders, but Dr. John Gray talks a lot about with masculine energy, and how men do want to please a woman, and they do want to feel like a woman is pleasable, whether it's sexually or in life. They want to be able to create and build and have a woman to impress with it. And there is a natural inherence to want to have that sort of like respect for what a man brings to the relationship, right? So I'm not discounting that, but it still applies that when there's an insistence that someone respond to us in a way that feels like that, it cuts off intimacy. But when we leave room for someone to appreciate us and then we acknowledge their appreciation, that's how we connect. Rather than, woman, I did this, that, and this for you, and you ain't even happy, which is what often happens, right?
Like, I
Right?
did all this for you.
Yeah.
Where's my appreciation?
Where's my appreciation? Where's my respect? Where's my this? Where's my that? It's like, that's where we get into trouble, is by looking for it. So the one who minds their own emotional business and takes responsibility for it, that's someone who is a prize in your life. Meaning, like, if I have agency over my own emotions, then I don't have time to be analyzing you and telling you about yourself. Like, I only can work through and heal my own stuff, right? And when we have agency over our own emotions, we are a prize. That supports us in being a prize to someone else, because we're not always blaming the other person for how we feel. Like, when you did that, you made me feel this. Or I have a couple of friends, they're a couple, and the one is always blaming the other for her state, like her emotional state. It's always her partner's fault. Like, if you didn't say that like that, I wouldn't be feeling like this. Like, she even like puts it in that kind of language.
Wow.
So I think that, when we find ourselves in partnerships blaming the other person for how we feel about things or how things land on us, it's just not connective. People do it all the time. Don't get me wrong. I'm not, saying that it's sinful or shameful, or that, that it's something that people should know not to do.
Right.
We don't know not to do it because that's what we're raised with. That's what was exampled before us. Is like, you treat your romantic partner like they have a responsibility to make you feel a certain way.
Right.
If I want to feel good, it's up to you to make me feel good. If I'm in a bad mood, it's all your fault because you didn't do the things that I wanted you to do. If I'm feeling annoyed, it's because of something you did. That's what we do to our romantic partner. They're the closest one to us, and they're within easy reach, right? But the willingness to just take responsibility over all those emotions, all those judgments, all of those things that we tend to do to our partner, that actually has us be a prize. Right? Think about anybody you've ever dealt with. I don't know, I don't want to be digging into you and Sasha's marriage.
Oh,
Think about any time where you felt like, or think about just a friendship, to keep it light. Like, where someone really just took responsibility for how they showed up.
Yeah. I've been there.
Right?
I've been there. Again, it's a very in the present moment kind of feeling, like there's no judgment.
Yeah. Like, you don't even want to judge. Like, when you know someone and they take responsibility, you don't even want to judge them because you get it.
Right.
Like, when someone can just admit, you know what, I'm human. This is how I felt about that thing. And this is where I went. Maybe after when we were talking and you said that thing, or when you didn't do that thing, I told myself this. And so that made me really angry because I was like, in my story about it. Right. Which is very different than,
exactly.
When you didn't take out the trash, that's it. I'm pissed off now.
Oh, you got it started now.
Right? Now I don't even want to talk to you no more. So that's another thing that makes us the prize. And I think that can start early on in the dating process. Like, when we're first going out with somebody, we can begin that practice of owning how we feel, because that's when we're the most unsure and vulnerable, I think. Before we've had any sort of exclusivity conversation, when we're first dating somebody, I think we're very afraid to be honest about how we feel about things. But when we're honest and taking responsibility for it, that's what grows that relationship into the next level. Right? Because there's so, like with online dating and with, what I do with matchmaking, and just, there's just so much possibility out there for how many people you could date. right? And I've had people who, with matchmaking, who've gone on like, 40, 50 dates. And people who don't have a
Wow.
matchmaker, who go on like, I had a friend who one year she did 100 dates in 100 days. Like, people go on a lot of dates.
Wow. That's like a movie.
Right? It totally is. Like, it should be a screenplay, actually. But I say all of that to say that you could endlessly just keep dating and not going to that next level, with the attitude that it's up to that other person to bring you what you need, and to show up in a way that has your emotions be what you want your emotions to be. Right. So if I say that I want, to have fun, and I want us to go out, and, I want it to be light, and I want us to be able to have a sense of humor and have fun together, but then I expect you to bring all that. Like, I'm just going to come in whatever mood I want to come in.
Right. And that if you do that, then I'll be all right.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then what happens if that other person doesn't do that, or if that other person is playing off of whatever my attitude is? Then it ends up falling flat and it doesn't happen, right? But if I say these are the things that I want, and I'm going to generate them, I'm going to align with them, I'm going to overflow and produce them, and I'm committed to having fun no matter what. I mean, I've gone on dates with people where I committed to having fun no matter what, and they were just ridiculous dates. There was no way I was going to be able to be with this person long term, just
Well,
because we weren't right together, but I still had a great time.
do you think that in part is like you showing up with authenticity? Like
Yes.
you're showing up as all of you, and that you've released the attachment to whatever the outcome of that date is.
Yes, that's
Okay.
100% what it is. And the way to do that is to just be not just authentic and real about who you are and how you are and what you're feeling, but also responsible for who you are and how you are and how you're feeling, not blaming that
Okay.
other person, right?
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that early dating area is the best way to start practicing that, because that's sort of our field of practice as we're evolving into a relationship.
Not the person.
You
Oh,
know?
I've only had one date in my life.
Oh, Sasha's your only date ever, right?
We met once and we got married.
Yeah. The magical fairy tale. But yeah, it does come down to that. Like, it comes back to, okay, if I know I'm the prize and I know that I'm valuable, I'm so in love with who I am that I'm okay with the things that aren't so great. And so I can own them. I can own being wrong about stuff. I can own that sometimes my behavior is not perfect. And that's another thing. We're always so afraid to admit that how we've behaved is not so good, that we always want to blame it or cast it off onto that other person, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's a big one. I mean, I feel like with that one, if you really want to be the prize, be willing to be responsible for your own shit. You know?
Wow.
Yeah. None of us is perfect. And being the
Right.
prize doesn't mean being a perfect person.
Right.
It just means owning that I'm not a perfect person, loving myself anyway.
That's
And
oof.
right?
That's a good thing, because that gets into things like being like like a people pleaser,
Yeah.
or those kind of scenarios, right? Where um if I'm not if I see that you're not always happy with me,
Hmm.
then that means there's something wrong in the
Yeah.
relationship,
Yeah.
right?
No, totally.
Oof.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. And that's the thing too. It's like when we start out early with that being able to take responsibility, with the being a people pleaser and all of that stuff, like that, those layers don't get to take over. Because if I start
Right,
out
right,
early,
right.
right, and I'm filled up enough that I can take responsibility for my own emotions and things like that, I don't put you in a place of having to please me. And if you are a people pleaser, that's like one of the most dangerous things, when you are dealing with a people pleaser, and then someone who is narcissistic, or someone who feels like they have to manipulate love from people. It's like, over time that wears away at both people.
Right. And it
And
becomes an abusive relationship.
it becomes abusive, and it may not be physically abusive, but emotionally it starts to take its toll. It starts to wear on you. And
Right.
someone who people pleases, usually it's because they want that person to validate their enoughness, right? But then nothing they ever do is good enough. And it's not good enough to them either, because the reason that they try to please people is because they won't let themselves be good enough. It's a vicious cycle.
Right. Right.
You
You're right. I
know?
mean, that the toxicity between those kind of personalities can get really, really.
Yeah. But it all comes back to the same thing. It's, if I'm loving myself enough that I'm willing to own my shit, if I'm willing to own it and not make it wrong and not shame it and just be, flat about this is what it is and not make it your responsibility, not make it mean that you have to act a certain way in order for me to be okay. If I don't have to cast those rules onto you, then what I'm offering you is a valuable intimate connection. I'm offering you um just a peacefulness, right? Like, you don't have to work to be good enough for me, because I don't have to work to be good enough for you. It's like, we come together, we already know that we're enough, and we overflow onto each other. We're not always perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we fall short, but we're allowed to do that, and it's okay. And we can own that that's okay as well. We got to start giving each other a break.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. I mean, I mean.
That's what this comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, as people, as a culture, socially, and especially when it comes to dating and romance, it's like we have to start giving each other a break. And that kind of sums up all probably the last 10 shows.
I mean, what
Right?
do the people out there think about that?
I know, right? I want them to chime in. I got some people. I have John, Carl, and Brian and Dennis. Hi, you guys, for watching.
Hello.
You guys can chime in about that. But yeah, we really have to start owning our own shit, giving other people a break. And the only way to give other people a break is to start with ourselves. Like,
Right.
once you start with giving yourself a break, you can give other people a break.
Like, let go of the facade, right? That you
Yeah.
think that you need to carry with you and present to the world.
Yeah.
If you feel naturally that you're a giver, or that you love giving, being that way, then just be that way.
Exactly. Just be that way. You don't need
Yeah.
any validation around it.
Nope. That's just
Yeah.
that's the way God made you.
And allow yourself to attract from that place. Like, I think we're
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
busy worried about, if I'm a giver, I'm going to give too much, and then someone's going to take advantage of me. Well, that comes from having conditions on your giving. You're not really allowing yourself to be authentically a giver if your thing about it is that, well, I gave too much and then they took advantage. Well, what's giving too much if you're a giver?
Right.
It wouldn't
Exactly.
even be in your consciousness.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that you don't have boundaries.
Yeah.
But even in the boundaries, you don't move into the judgment of that. Right?
Yeah, like if you're naturally a giver, obviously it's like, you give to yourself first. If that's truly who you are, you wouldn't even have to set any boundaries. You would know how to give to yourself so that you could overflow on other people. If that's what you're naturally a giver. If you're a giver from a toxic place who just wants, like a people pleaser, and just wants people to validate you, then that's going to be in your consciousness, that people use me, that people take advantage of it, and they didn't give me anything back, because you went to give hoping that you were going to get something back, with an attachment that something back was coming. But if I'm all filled up, like, I know when to say no, I know when to say yes, because I take care of myself first, but I know how to overflow because I've taken such good care of myself. Now I can help out you, or help you out, or now I can give to you. It's a completely different experience of being a giver. Right? I don't know. Or the one who wants to provide to the other from their strengths. So whether it's that they want to give nurturing support, right? Or, fulfill the other person's basic needs, like cooking, physical touch, time and attention, financial provision, creative expression, all that stuff. that makes you a prize when you want to do those things for a person. And in as much as a lot of times we have a story that we did that for somebody and they like I said, took advantage of us or didn't do us right or whatever, it's not an excuse to be out of alignment with, truly wanting to show up in a relationship that way. And, there might be some risk to it. There's risk to it if you're attached to it, having something come from it. But if you're willing to go ahead and do that, the likelihood that you're with someone who can do the same is going to increase, right? Because you're aligned with who you are. And our free sharing of ourselves, with another person, it makes us a very valuable prize. That's when we're the prize. When I'm willing to share myself freely and share my talents and my gifts freely, that's so valuable. Think of Beyonce on stage. Right, although she ain't doing it for free. Lord knows those ticket prices.
Right. We wish she was doing it for free.
I wish she was doing it. Well, back in the day, I wish she was doing it for free as many concerts as I've been to. But she's a perfect example of just, because there's a lot of artists that charge a big ticket price and they do what they do and it's great. There's nothing wrong with it. But she's a perfect example, like her, like a Michael Jackson. Like they as performers, they would just leave it all on the floor.
Right.
Like you would be willing to pay more for that ticket.
Right.
And that's the same way that we can show up in relationships, depending on who you are, not meaning that you have to be booty shaking and flipping a wig. I'm saying that depending on who you are, you leave it all on the floor.
Right.
Live into who you are 100% always, whether or not you're in a romantic relationship, because when you're doing it in a romantic relationship, someone who's good for you is going to value that you leave it all on the floor. Right? Like I came to play. I came to be exactly who I am. And if I don't feel up,
it's showtime.
It's showtime. And if I don't feel up for it, then I know how to take care of myself so that I do feel up for coming to play. Like, it's really just about, and in these days, what with COVID and all this political shit and everything that we deal with right now, it's like the key here is how do we get back to what I believe this world is, this existence is, which is our chance to walk around in this human suit and play and experiment and see what's possible and be adventurous and exploring and love each other and be understanding and have experiences that are of this world for as long as we're here, right?
Right.
So how do we get to do that unless we allow ourselves to be 100% ourselves and allow ourselves to be okay with all of it about ourselves, right? So that we can share that with someone else.
Even what we believe is the good, the bad, and the ugly, right?
Absolutely.
Just own it all.
Own it all, especially these days with all the crap we're going through as people.
Right.
Own all of it.
Right.
Own that, watching too much news makes me sad. Own that, you're afraid about all this COVID stuff and that you own that you're afraid about all this COVID stuff. If that's how you feel, right?
Right.
It's okay to be in that space with that and with whatever's going on in your relationships as well. Like I own that I feel mistrustful and fearful because something you did was similar to something I went through a long time before.
Right.
And I'm telling myself a story that it's going to happen again based on having experienced something similar. Own it. Right? And give it over. Be expressive. Another way to be the prize, the one who chooses to be in a relationship for what they can give rather than what they can get. Right? I know I've said that before. I know I'm being repetitive, but this one I had to add in. I mean, Brian, this is why I have a dog. Because, and I'll tell you why. Obviously, when you have an animal, you have a lovely cat. When you have an animal, you're the caretaker of that being, right?
Right.
Like they rely on you for their food, everything, making sure that they can, go to the bathroom in a hygienic way, their health, all of it.
Right.
And the reason that I love the dynamic, and I'm not saying this is how romantic relationships have to be, but the reason why I love the dynamic of a person-pet relationship is because there's just no meaning like you don't have to make any meaning behind it. Like the pet is there to receive love.
Right. Exactly.
Right. And they give love as well,
right.
But because they don't have the cognition that we have, they don't give the love like, oh, well, you know what, you fed me, so let me give you a little extra. They just They're just doing it because that's how they
Right.
feel,
Right.
and sometimes they don't feel like it. And we don't make meaning out of it because we know they don't have that cognition.
Right. Right.
But if we could approach our human relationships in that way, where we're not always trying to make it mean something that our partner doesn't show up in a certain way, we could have a similar kind of relationship in that it's what it is without having to manipulate it.
Right. Right.
I know that sounds crazy. I'm not
No,
saying for
no,
people to
but
start
but it is true. It's true. It's true. Like if
Right.
you're in a relationship and your partner, let's say your partner is acting in a way where they feel like they're in the prize thing, right?
Yeah.
And you recognize that. Well, you don't have to buy in. You don't have to you can still remain in what, like you just said, you can remain in a place of unconditional love. You
Yeah.
can remain in a place where you understand that you are a prize, but in a internally loving way, right?
Yeah.
And you stand in your square,
Yeah.
right?
Totally. Totally. And then the last one, the one that invites us to be ourselves freely and doesn't need to make us change. Right? You know you are a prize when you just invite someone to just be themselves freely.
Yep.
Right? You don't
Yep.
need to change them. You don't need to force them to be any other way. And I've been in relationships, I talk about my past relationship that was a mutually abusive relationship. And he was a heavy, heavy weed smoker. I don't have anything against smoking weed, but he had a heavy addiction with it. And I spent so much of that relationship trying to change that about him. Or wanting to do whatever I could to try to get him to stop. And I wasn't being a prize. Like a lot of people would be like, oh, well, it was him because he was the weed smoker. No, it was me because I was trying to change him from what it was he wanted to do.
Right. And that you could just decide, well, I don't like this.
Yeah. So you got to change it.
Yeah, I don't like this, and that I'm just going to move on.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with you. That's your thing. But that's not my thing.
Yeah. And that's the thing that we can do. But to be a prize, it's a willingness to allow someone to be themselves freely.
Yep.
That's what makes you a prize. Anyone in your life who just accepts you for exactly who you are. And if you accept yourself for exactly who you are, they will.
Yeah.
That's a prize. And so you want to be that as well. You don't want to just be looking for somebody who's like that. Be someone who accepts people for exactly who they are. Everybody who I interview for matchmaking, they all say, I want someone who sees and accepts me for exactly who I am. But here's my list of requirements for who they have to be. Right? So it's like you're setting yourself up for not giving what it is that you want to get.
Right.
You can't be the prize while you're doing that.
Right.
For anybody who's out there saying, I'm the prize, but because I'm the prize, here's my list of requirements. It's like, it doesn't work that way. You got to be what it is that you want in order to receive it. And it's the same thing with love. If you want to receive love, you have to be love. If you want to receive acceptance, you have to be acceptance.
Be the change that you seek.
That you wish to see. So the takeaway is that when we really are a prize, we don't need anyone to prove that they know it by meeting our requirements of them, and we will naturally attract other prizes and nature will take its course. In other words, when we love ourselves, we don't have to expect anyone else to. They just will. And that's it. That's it.
Wow, great show.
Did you enjoy that one, Brian?
I loved it.
Enjoy that topic?
I loved it.
Yeah.
Really do. I mean, it's deep. It's deep. It's something that I think all of us, that's a daily kind of practice. Right? It's an ongoing practice. It's not something that, oh, well, I got that. I got it.
Yeah.
I got this.
It's the ongoing practice. And spoiler alert, it's what I will always be talking about. What is the underlying thing is that it's all about unconditional self-love and self-acceptance. And the distinction between that and a narcissistic self-love, which we get confused all the time.
Right.
All right. So if you want to work with me, you want to join the Epic Healing Circle on Monday nights. Every Monday night, we as women come together as a community. We'll be causing personal transformation when it comes to communication, forgiveness, self-love, mother-daughter relationships, purpose, friendship, all the tools we need to be as big as we were meant to be. And yeah, we're on collective number 2. The first workshop is free. You can join the group, join the ladies. We had a fantastic session last week, or this past week. We just started our forgiveness module. Also, thank you so much, my Brian, Solidity Magazine.
Oh, you are so welcome. It is a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Passion, purpose, and living. So I want everybody to go check out soliditymagazine.com. We're doing big things. We have that big thing coming in December, right?
Yes. And I will post information in the chat so that people can check it out as well.
All right. And we can be teasing about that more as we go along, right? Also, shout out to the Ask for Candy podcast group. You can follow us on Instagram at Ask for Candy Podcast, at Candy Love Coach, at Solidity Magazine. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And yeah, email us, askforcandypodcast@gmail.com. And until next time, never forget that you are a love machine. If you ever start to feel like you aren't getting the love you need, just make more and ask for candy. Bye now.
Watch Ask for Candy with Candice Harper every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Solidity Magazine brings you the best in inspiration on Solidity TV. Check out our new shows. Mark your calendars for Solidity Magazine shows by going to solidity.com now.